Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the day after Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. I am your host, Mike Asherbrainer, the Redneck Connector and proud and humble leader of the Hounds of Business. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mike King Biz Radio on ESPN 106.1 FM in Richmond, RVA. If you're tuning in live, welcome. So glad you can make it, especially after everybody's playing catch up on a Monday. And if you're listening on the air, thank you so much. We have a great show and a dear friend of mine, amazing business person from the ground up, Claudia Marulanda. She is extraordinary. So get your notepads out, get ready, because we're going to talk about the self-care secret no one talks about that relieves burnout. All right, now there's tons of burnout stuff out there, but there's only one Claudia and one thing we're about to talk about, folks. Get ready.
Looks like your business might be in a bit of a pickle. Don't you worry about a thing. You ain't alone in this. You're just a success story waiting to happen. Trust me on that. Every bump in the road is just an opportunity wearing a clever disguise. Welcome to the Hounds of Business Community, where we don't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. Nope. We turn those obstacles into mighty fine stepping stones. This here's a place where high-level entrepreneurs and sharp professionals gather to grow their businesses and mindsets, kind of like how a good old gumbo needs the right ingredients to be something special. Ideas thrive here, and collaborations, well, they're as natural as sweet tea on a hot day. Success, it's a journey, and we're fixing to walk that road right beside you. Now, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest tips and insights. We're talking about the kind of wisdom that'll keep you ahead of the game. And while you're at it, head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got ourselves a treasure trove of videos, from expert interviews to webinars, everything you need to stay sharp in this fast-moving world of business. The Hounds of Business Community? Well, we ain't just a network, we're a movement. So why not come on and be part of something bigger? Join us today and let's turn your business journey into a real Southern success story. Together, we'll achieve greatness, just like crawfish and singing on a Friday night.
All right, folks. So let's bring up this amazing lady who absolutely has no clue about crawfish and singing on a Friday night yet until I go to New York, dadgummit. Let's bring her up. Welcome to the show, Claudia. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Mike. I'm doing excellent. Excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, it's always a treat. But I can't have you on every week, but I would if I could. No exaggeration. Oh gosh, we just so the folks out there know, we started our business. And is that your grumpy little dog back there barking?
He started barking, yeah.
Oh man, he's got a Timex. He wants to eat on the hour, and if he don't get what he wants, he's grumpy. He's like 100 years old. Isn't he? How old is he? He's about
He's gonna
101.
be 18. Oh boy. Perfect.
Well,
right on time. 12. I mean, he already ate, so it's not food.
okay, well, we're the Hounds, so we can't get mad at the dog, right? I mean, it's kind of real.
Yeah,
Weird.
that makes sense.
So, so folks, she and I have met a few years ago, and building the business from ground up, dirt, all passion, no clue kind of thing. And it's been remarkable seeing you grow. It really has. The blood, sweat, and tears, the learning. You have really blew up light years, and now you're making a huge impact. So I couldn't be more excited than to share you with other people so they can tap into the stuff you're doing, because gosh, folks need it, man. We do. So if you're out there building a business, scaling up, you're a busy professional, you're juggling 5,000 balls and hope one of them don't drop. Pay attention here, okay? Because even I'm interested, and I don't know nothing about art or anything, okay? So anyway, let's get started, Claudia. Start at the beginning. Just give us a little brief intro of the moment that you first picked up your colored pencils, your brushes, all these things. What was happening in your life that made you reach for them?
Pain, emotional pain.
Yes,
hit what I called a rock bottom, but later I understood that so let me go from the beginning. A lot of things in my life changed at that moment through that period. It was like a year period. The end of a relationship. My son left home to join the Marines. I only have one son, so that was very painful.
wow.
And later on, I lost my job and I didn't have the desire to continue in my career. So basically, everything that I knew to be me was like gone like that. Like I just sat in my living
Wow.
room on the floor, like, what's next for me? I didn't know who I was any longer. So the pain, the crying, one day, it was kind of like intuition that it just told me to take out my old color pencils, my pencils. I started coloring. There was a hurricane here in New York, and I was just amazed. Like, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm not crying. I don't feel any pain. It's like there's something here. So I did it again, and it just became a daily activity because I call it my medicine, because it was like that daily dose that I needed to get by during those very difficult moments, And it took years for me to understand what was actually happening in my body, how art was changing my biology, my physiology, everything.
Yeah, you said something that's very, very telling, and a lot of folks. You mentioned, kind of in my words, feeling emotionally lost. Like you woke up and life was just done as you knew it. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of people can relate to that on some form or fashion. But instead of reaching for the bottle or some other unhealthy maladaptive behavior, you went to something useful, something that you had a passion for, right? So, and folks can relate to it. So, paint a picture of what that looked like for your day to day, right? So, you're in this new arena, trying to figure things out, lost a job, etc. So, what did that look like day to day?
So the interesting thing, Mike, when you said, my passion, like back then, I didn't know it was my passion.
Ah,
It was just like one day I just felt like the desire to just start drawing, because it's something that I did when I was much younger. And I always doodle at work. I was a graphic designer, but I wasn't drawing or painting or anything like that. So when I still had a job in the beginning after heartbreak, I would just come straight home to create art. And when I didn't have my job anymore, it was kind of like, okay, like, what am I gonna do? Eventually I did a couple of jobs, and that's when I ended up in a whole different field. I ended up in the janitorial industry, because I was like, all I wanted was to feel happier. So I was willing to try new things. And I think the act of just engaging in art daily, it kind of like opened me up to saying yes to other things, because it was just relaxing my body. It was allowing my nervous system basically to calm down, relax, and I would be okay for a while. And then, I will get back to my pain, the breakup, my son not being home. Like, what am I going to do? Like, what's next for me? So it was helping me balance all those emotions that were just going crazy. So it was kind of like that calming place that I could just come back home to, and allowed me to get past it, basically.
Thank you for sharing that, because again, we think we're defective or we're weird or whatever, and when we hear folks like you share that, we're like, oh my gosh, right? Like, it's not just me. And I want folks to be encouraged by that, because and real quick, when did you realize this wasn't just about drawing and art, right? That this actually become your medicine? When did that click? Because you now help other people with it.
Yeah, it probably took about, I would say, about 7 years later.
Wow.
It took a while, because I started hearing people talk about, like, how art saved my life. And I was like, what do they mean? Like, like, how can art save someone's life?
Right.
And I started having conversation. I had a conversation with a veteran. He suffered from PTSD, and just everything that he told me just kind of like impacted me. And I could see how art was helping me. So, and I started educating myself also, because there was traumas that I came up around that time. So I read The Body Keeps the Score. I don't remember how to pronounce the author's name. But I read that book. I started reading books on trauma, on art, and I could just see like how it all made sense, but I couldn't put it together. And then when I started reading about the power of the imagination, it's like, oh my God, like I could see the whole picture, but not with clarity. So it's taken me a couple of years to really get to that point that I finally understood that engaging in the arts is basically giving yourself that space to be with yourself and with sometimes with your emotions, because we need to be able to process emotions, we need to be able to release emotions. And I was doing that, and I was unconscious about it. I don't know if unconscious is the right word, but I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't know I was processing emotions. I didn't know I was allowing myself to express myself when I was engaging in art. So I was doing it, but I wasn't being intentional about it. And then after learning, reading, educating myself, then I was like, okay, the arts is not just something for kids or something that we do in school. The arts is something that we need to be practicing daily. And in my case, it's visual arts. Someone else might love writing. They might love singing, music, dancing. So the whole thing is like, how do you engage in those creative activities that allow you to reconnect to yourself and just calm down so you can become creative again, so you can be who you're meant to be instead of living in the stress, and getting to that point of burnout, because everyone's always talking about burnout. And I think last year there was a conversation with this girl that I met. I happened to hear her story that she was burnt out. She had no energy for anything, and for some reason she picked up a coloring book in the store, and that was the only activity she could do. She didn't even have the energy to brush her teeth because she was in such a bad place. But if I remember correctly, she said that the coloring book was just a space where she didn't have to think. She was actually doing something. She didn't have to think. And then it helped her get out of that space. And then if you look at science explains exactly what is happening in the body and how it helps.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, but you said a whole lot there. First of all, the beginning is like, hey, I lost my job, lost my marriage, etc. Fill in the blank, serious things. And you're like, oh, just draw a stick figure. And you're like, what is it? No, but you're right. It's because it is scientific. I even do it. I break out different mediums and things now because we were talking about this earlier. You can't access your creative brain. You can't force it like you can reason and, grinding and all that. You have to. Cutting the grass answered like 3 of my questions that I couldn't figure out consciously, right? Like, so I'm a believer, right? You and April Wyatt have absolutely turned me into a believer, which is why we're sharing it, because it's not weird. So real quick, hey, Mike King Biz Radio. This guy is beloved by his community and the Hounds, and we love our partnership, my friend. Pushing people up, putting a spotlight on folks who are doing extraordinary things, just like Claudia Marulanda here, folks. And by the way, if you want to check more out, she's got workshops. She's got all kinds of free resources out there. Crazy not to tap into it. Marulanda, MARULANDA art.com. MarulandaArt.com. And Mike King, thank you for our partnership, big dog. And anybody out there, if you're trying to build a business, elevate, find that passion, find that dream, make it a reality. Don't do it alone. Right? Get the people, resources, and support to get it done. Hounds of Business. You can find us on YouTube, find us on LinkedIn, shoot us a message. So back to you on what you're talking about, because it is scientific. And so we got high-powered CEOs, we have busy professionals, maybe they have families on top of all the crazy stuff in business. And they're like, I don't have time to sit in art class, right? Because that was me. I'm just calling it. All right. But there's some really compelling statistics out there about workplace stress, and you work with companies and small groups, communal groups, and one-on-one, right, to solve that problem. So help our listeners understand why creativity isn't just some feel-good activity. What's going on in our brain?
So there's this book, and if anyone's interested, they can read it. It's called Your Brain on Art. I think it came out like 2 years ago, and it talks about in detail everything that is happening. And there's this new movement now called neuro arts, and there's this other thing called I forgot, prescriptions. Like doctors are prescribing people art to go to the museum to get a coloring book.
No
because
kidding.
They need that. Yeah. So I remember, in the conversation, and I have it here, that I read that there's a statistic that says visiting a museum once or twice a month gives you the same level of protection for your mental health as exercising for 1 or 2 hours per week. That's just one side of it. And right now, it has come up that it can lower loneliness, specifically loneliness, for up to 24%, and depression up to 20%. So my understanding of what's happening in the brain is that, or at least what happened to me, when you get into the activity where you have to focus. So I'm going to be doing like a drawing class, like coloring, drawing, and painting. They're all different activities and they affect you in a different way. But when you're drawing, you actually have to focus and think about that line, or even coloring, if you want to stay within the lines. So
Unlike me.
yeah. Well, so you focus on that and you're present to the moment. So when we're present to the moment, we're not in that survival mode anymore. Like our nervous system is relaxed. And the thing with the brain, like, I can't think right now. It basically helps like rewire your
Oh, the
system.
left brain, right brain, right? That kind
Well,
of thing.
no, just rewiring. So when you're thinking about like, oh my God, like let's say I was sad because of the breakup. So if I keep thinking about that breakup, I'm kind of like igniting all those wires
Yeah.
about the breakup, and I just keep making them strong, and it just keeps getting worse. But when you relax your nervous system, you're sitting, you're in the present moment, you're not thinking about that, you're allowing new neurons to form, and you start making new connections. And then I started thinking about like, I started reflecting on my life, like what are the things that I want? Because I really wanted to feel happy. That was one of my main things. And then I started like thinking like, okay, this is possible, that's possible. So I got to start moving toward what I wanted. And I started engaging in those emotions as I was creating my art. So that's what helped me move out of that.
Oh my goodness. So what you're talking about is becoming your best self, right? Defining success for yourself and getting out of your own way. Because I've done that. Oh my gosh, over and over and over, ruminating and dwelling on a situation, and that is anything but helpful. And so
Yeah.
doing things that, especially when you're analytical and all about logic and stuff. When I pull out a paintbrush and paint like Animal from the Muppet Babies, man, it's not about quality art. It's about me allowing my brain in my mind to do healthy work. It's going to access creativity. It's going to solve problems that I just couldn't do on my own. And I think that's remarkable. So let me ask you this. Someone's sitting in their office right now, feeling burned out. Right? Maybe they're not admitting it, right? Because it's not cool to admit it. But what's really happening in their brain when they start creating something? Because you mentioned, hey, pencils and different tools for different jobs, which I find fascinating. You've done your
So
homework.
I did an event recently because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think we're still in May.
Yep, a little bit.
And, when I tell people to connect to their emotions, people get like, no one wants to deal with emotions, but we are emotional beings. We feel, no matter what we feel, we're feeling emotions. So I think people have to get over the whole thing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to deal with emotions, because you are dealing with emotions on a daily basis, every second. So I gave them an exercise. I think the number one thing is being intentional of what you want to achieve. If you just want to relax, give yourself the space to relax. You can ask yourself questions as well, because once you relax, you're allowing that inner self to kind of like show up and give you the answers of what you want. So I did this event and I asked them to just pour out, kind of like have a cathartic release, just pour out all the stress and whatever. And then it's like, okay, now that the stress is gone, I gave them a little breathing room. We did a little breathing exercise. I don't usually do meditation, which I feel like I should do a little bit. And they relax. And I was like, okay, so now that you're free of that, like, what can you start creating? And it was really magical, the stories that they were saying, like what showed up for them. So when they're stressed, burnout, and they give themselves that space, you're allowing yourself to be with you. You're allowing answers to come up. You're allowing, like, I would say, more of the pure thoughts to come up within yourself. This guy, and I don't remember exactly what he said, he did like this coil kind of spiral, and then he made it black, and then he put like a little great line, and it didn't look like anything maybe to you or anyone else, but it meant a lot to him. So it wasn't a masterpiece, it wasn't anything crazy, it was like a little, what a child would do. And then he explained what was going on, which I don't remember all the details, but he's like, I just needed to ground myself. So he made green in the bottom and he did the little coil, and he's like, then the gray area is like, that was my silver lining. Like, I finally realized that I needed to ground myself. And then he told me all this stuff. So it was really cool. There was another guy, and these were men. Okay. Usually I don't deal
Mhm.
with men. Guy, with whatever's happening in society had him really stressed. So he let that out. He painted it the way it was. And then when he went to create, he created like this beautiful flowers. And he was like, oh my God, I feel so more relieved. Like, like you just feel lighter.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's the point. The point, we got to do more of what we enjoy and we like, because it doesn't make sense to live in stress. It doesn't help. And then we stress because we're burnt out and we're stressed and we're feeling anxious and we keep stressing about that. I was like, well, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to pause. Maybe it's time to do something you enjoy. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah, oh, wow. See, I'm not going to mess that up with any redneckisms. All right. You're right. If it's not working, get off the crazy train. Reset, pause, do something different, and let someone guide you. Go. When's the last time? Ask yourself this, folks. When's the last time you did something you normally wouldn't do, not comfortable with, right? Like me going into an art class or Claudia's workshop, and trying to draw something. I did that with my daughter years ago. You couldn't tell whose owl it was, and she was 5, right? And but it didn't matter. We got to bond. I got relaxation, and this is what I mean. This works because I have been on that hamster wheel, like you've talked about. Many folks are, and this is a no BS way to get things done, so you can be more effective. You can be more, grow bigger. You can be more present and fully aware when you have those sales calls and et cetera, right? So I'm curious because you do corporate, art programs and things for burnout, for culture. And so when you walk into a corporate environment with this art programs, what kind of resistance do you face, if any? And how do you win over skeptics?
I tend to get nervous, really, like especially if it's corporate. I do get nervous a little bit because, I mean, I live in New York, but it's just for me is giving people the space to be with themselves. I
Oh,
don't ask too much. I guide them for them to be with themselves, and they don't really need much from me. And it just becomes easy, and that's the thing. And given, I tell people, give yourself permission to play and express yourself. Like in this case, I was like, I gave them little bottles of paint. If you want to go crazy, I mean, it was a little control because it's not a super big canvas. But if you want to use your fingers, do it. I like to be
yeah.
messy because now
Finger
I
paint.
have the permission. Yeah, I'll just go crazy. And only one person did it in this case, but some people have a lot of resistance. This girl once told me that in her family, her culture, she has to be really good at what she does. If she's not good at it, she doesn't do it. So she says that she just never does art because she wasn't good at it. So she's very, so some people just don't give themselves to that space to be more of who they are within. They just follow the rules that were imposed by society, by the family, by culture. And I think it's sometimes it's good to break certain rules, especially when they don't work, when they're not benefiting people, when they're actually hurting people. And in that case, it's you. So is letting yourself that. So going back to your question, I just give people that space. I offer them to allow themselves to break free, and some people do it more than others, and some people might try a little bit. So anything that helps, is good, and that's all I do.
Yeah, again, I used to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'll make a fool of myself or waste time or whatever. But then I realized, hey, you're taking on challenges. You're building resilience. You're meeting new people. Start looking at the positives of it. And that, I love these stories. I mean, because these are real stories. I've seen you develop these and do this. You have done this. You've mastered this for other folks. And I love framing you as the guide because that's spot on. You're not doing the work for them. You're giving them the ecosystem and a simple instruction. And any guys out there, listen, it's like a coach and a quarterback. The coach calls the play, shows it to you, you run the play, right? That's it. That's as simple as it needs. It doesn't need to be complicated. You show up, make what you want of it, and good things happen, folks. So let me ask you this because I want to get. Gosh, we got time flies and you're having fun. So in the last couple minutes, so if I'm a busy executive, right, or entrepreneur,
Mhm.
with maybe 10 minutes between meetings, how can I tap into this creative approach you're talking about?
Uh, Doodling. If you like
Ah,
doodling,
my mom
doodling
loved
is
doodling.
huge. I don't do a lot of doodling. I used to when I wasn't creating art, and it's funny now I don't do it. But doodling, just give yourself that space where you can focus. If you like coloring, when you go, I heard this story, and I think I read it in a book of this. She a lawyer that she would get so stressed, so in her office she will have like a little coloring book, so gave herself some time to color because not everyone meditates, not everyone feels comfortable breathing. So sometimes you just need that, coloring book. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but there's something about like if you color 20 minutes a day, it can definitely make an impact on your health. So
Yeah.
anything that's going to get you focused into the present moment and get you out of that survival mode, that anxiety, that stress, that what else can I call it? Your nervous system being like all
Right.
hyperactive. Anything is going to
Mhm.
help because at the end of the day, it affects your health. It affects you mentally, emotionally, and physically. This is why the arts can lower, like depression,
Right.
20%. And I feel that it can be more than that, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. Well, you had me so before the show. So, and I'm sure other people are going, hey, why not? It couldn't hurt. So there's two ways that I can give you guys listening on the air or live. Go find a niece, nephew, or kid and color with them. That way you can get coloring out without, feeling weird if that's the case, like I do. And then number two, show up to one of Claudia's events. So I don't want to call it a drawing class. Right? Tell us what it is, and you have them on Wednesdays. Is it every Wednesday? And what can folks expect to walk away with?
No, so bi-monthly I do a free coloring workshop, and that's about blending creativity with emotional well-being, and it's about helping people think, reframe, and connect to uplifting emotions. But I am launching a drawing class, and but I'm doing a free tomorrow. Tomorrow is May 28th. I'm doing a free eye drawing class because some people had asked me, to teach them how to draw. I love sketching. So I decided to try that out. So yes, tomorrow I'm going to be doing that. Anyone that wants to join that, it's free. And later, probably late June, I'm going to be having a whole face drawing class. So it's kind of nice. I love coloring, drawing, painting, so I can't really stick to one thing.
Oh, I know. And
I
you've
get
done art for, very well-known, successful business folks. You've drawn art. I got the privilege of seeing it. You drew a real big piece for this guy's office, and he loves it. It
oh
was
yeah.
customized. Like, there's nothing you can't do. And folks, I don't know if you want me to advertise this, but when it comes to graphic design, like business-wise, oh, that's my go-to. Yeah, no, I hired her a long time ago. My goodness, right? She because you know graphics, but you
Right.
also know business, which makes you a devastatingly powerful force when it comes to marketing. So anyway, folks, she's got all these good things coming up. So if you're on the air and listen to this, it'd be June 10th. All right, next the following Wednesday. So June 10th, go to Marulanda art.com. I had to say it that way or nobody here understand me. MoralandaArt.com. You can find this. You can get the links off YouTube, Hounds of Business, or LinkedIn, or you can send me a carrier pigeon. So, just in the last 30 seconds here, all right, if someone's driving home from work, right, and they're feeling completely drained, what's one simple thing they could do tonight to start reconnecting with their creative side before they join you Wednesday?
Before they join me tomorrow.
Yeah, before
No,
they go
just
to
kidding.
your workshop. Yeah, tomorrow. But if they can't make it, what's something they can do? Simple, effective, get kind of like get ready, practice before they come.
I think one exercise that sometimes I've given people with coloring is if you try colors, like if you're feeling angry, pick up a color and color kind of like let's say a circle like a quarter size or a little bigger, and just color it like letting that anger out. Or if you're feeling sad, color it with that emotion. Just bring that emotion down, that energy into your arm and let it out and play with that. Get to play with your feelings and just feel it as you express it on paper. because it's really interesting what comes up for each person, and that's connection to self. That's, letting yourself be connected and just enjoy that, be with yourself. And that's a simple way to do it, through coloring.
Folks, you heard it here. If you want a fast, effective, and fun way to reconnect, bring harmony in your life while you blow up your business or your goals, there she is, folks. Claudia Marulanda, MarulandaArt.com. Thank you so much. Hounds, friends of the Hounds, thank you for being in the comments. And don't go at it alone. Go to MarulandaArt.com. We'll catch you on the next one. You are a fantastic human being and a dear friend. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do. Everybody, I cannot tell you enough. It's not a waste of time. Go check it out, then draw a conclusion. We'll see you on the next one. Wave, Princess Wave. Have a good one, folks.
Princess Wave. Bye.
Wave.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank y'all for stopping by. Be sure to follow, share, and like, and send me a message if you had fun today. Y'all come back now.